Ladies, gentlemen, all variations thereupon. Have you ever had a very mundane, basic problem and decided to solve it in a very extra way? That's exactly what I've done and what I'm planning on doing today. See, I have a very mundane problem that I'm sure you've all had, and that's with shopping bags. You see, I go to the shopping centre, which is roughly around about 2 kilometres, just over 2 kilometres away. That's about 1.5 miles if you're using freedom units. And whilst that's not a particularly far walking distance, when you're carrying a heavy shopping bag, it can get to be a little bit of an annoyance. It's not that much of an annoyance because when you think I have to carry a shopping bag, like 2 kilometres, that means I can afford to buy myself that extra chocolate bar, and you know, it's not really adding any extra calories because I'm also burning them off. Well, the problem actually isn't the shopping bag being too heavy. There is a major problem with shopping bags. They all seem to have straps that cut into you, don't they? When you get too heavy, whether you're holding them in your fingers or you have them on your arms, the straps always pull down and cut into you, whether it's a bag for life like this one, or a plastic one, or a polyurethane or cotton one. It's always the same, the straps cut in. Let me show you what I mean. If you have a bag that's completely empty and you put it on your arm, it's easiest to show, you see the straps, they sit nice and flat across the arm, so there's no pressure on there. If you put a little bit of weight in, now this bag has got a fair bit of weight to it. You can imagine if you were buying some bottles of milk or something like that, and once you put this on your arm, the strap has a tendency to want to pull tight and pull in. So when you walk along and you bounce like this for a bit, the more you bounce, the tighter this gets, the more it pulls into itself. So you end up getting a smaller and smaller area with the same amount of force, which equals more pressure. So I've been trying to think of a way of stopping that from happening. My first thought was to get some sort of pool noodle or something and put it around the straps so that as the straps push down, they push onto the pool noodle. The problem with doing that is, firstly, it's going to look stupid, but secondly, I'm not certain that the pool noodle will be able to take up the pressure of the entire weight of the shopping bag, and it won't just cut through and the pool noodle will fall apart. I don't know if that's going to happen. But then thinking about it, I realised that I don't have to put something on the handle, I could put it on my arm, which makes a perfect excuse to make some Vambraces. And what better Vambraces to make than Aragon's Vambraces from the Lord of the Rings. These are a very special type of Vambrace. They're actually Boromir's Vambraces originally, but after he dies, spoiler alert, Aragon takes these Vambraces off of Boromir's arms and wears them for the rest of that movie. There's not very much in that movie, but also the next 2 movies as well. He's always got these Vambraces on in memory of Boromir. So that's what I'm going to try and create today, but I'm going to do it in a very cheap, quick, easy way. So it's not going to look perfectly like the one used on the screen, but it's going to be something that I can put on my arm for the next time I go down shopping and not have it cut into me. So I've already done a very quick, simple design. This is a copy of what Aragon has on his arm in the movies. It's a sort of kite shield sort of shape, and that will just sit on my arm, and there'll be another piece of leather underneath that will tie up below. In the movies it's quilted underneath. That's one of the areas I'm going to cut corners on because I don't really have the materials or the time to make a big quilted piece, but I do have some scrap leather that I can create something soft underneath. So I'm going to need 2 of these, one for each arm, so when one arm gets tired I can just swap the bag over to the other arm without changing over the vambrace. So yeah, let's get to it. Two shapes roughly cut out, and if I place them against my arm just for measurement's sake, you'll see how they're supposed to fit. It's a kite shield that just slides across like that, so gets lots of freedom of motion. Because it's tapered in at the sides, it means that I can close up my arm without anything getting caught, so it sits there perfectly fine and looks pretty damn cool even just as plain leather. So the next step is to transfer the design from here onto this. This is basically the same design that they've seen in the movies. I've had to shift around these sort of leafy pattern bits a few times. The only Difference is that I've put my own maker's mark at the top. Normally you would want to put your maker's mark somewhere that's hidden, but you always want to put your maker's mark on there somewhere when you're creating something that's a replica of a prop. Even though this isn't going to look like a movie quality replica, because I'm just making this quick on the fly. But you always want to put your maker's mark somewhere on there. My maker's mark is actually an elvish bee. I don't know if that's even going to show up on camera. Normally I would surround that with stars or dots or something, but I'm not going to this time. I'm just going to put the bee at the top. And the reason you want to do that is if someone breaks into your house or something, or you decide to sell it at some point, what you don't want is for someone further down the line to try and sell that as the movie copy. So you've got to put your own mark on there somewhere so that people don't confuse your work with the one that was actually for the movie or some other famous makers. You don't want to get your stuff confused, even though, like I say, this isn't going to be of a high enough quality that it's going to get confused. It's still good practice to make sure you've got your maker's mark on there somewhere, even just out of politeness for, you know, other makers. So what we're going to do in order to transfer this across is, first I'm going to tape down this, which I probably should have said is actually just wrapping paper that has squares on the back to just make it easier to plan out the design. And I'm just going to tape it down across the front of the leather, but only on one end down here, and that's just so that I can flip it up and have a look at the design that's going on underneath without tearing all the tape off. In order to create the impression, obviously I want to wet the leather, so got hair in that. So I've got a little bowl of water here. I'm just going to soak a little dauber into it and then wet the surface of my leather. If you've got a sponge handy, then it'll go a bit quicker. And now to transfer the design across, just going to take one of these styluses with the rounded end and then just trace over the design I've already drawn, so that onto the damp leather underneath I'll transfer an impression of the design on there, so it makes it just easier then to work with the leather and get a more permanent impression later on. So just take this and we'll begin drawing with the tree. Right, so that's the design all transferred onto the leather, and now that the design's down on there, what we're going to do is take a swivel knife and cut over the lines that I've just drawn. Then it's going to be a case of taking some embossing tools and basically creating depressions to bring out that design, so it creates a bit of texture to it. So things like the tree down the bottom here are going to be pressed in, so we'll have a raised area here and a depressed area here. The tooling is going to take the longest part. It's going to take me a good few hours, so there'll just be a bit of a montage of me doing that. I won't go into too much detail explaining. All you're doing is lightly tapping and moving your finger lock a little bit. You've seen me do it before, and there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube showing you how to do it. Right, so my belly is now full, and this has been sitting here for about an hour. As you can see, I've propped things at the side to try and maintain that little curve on there, but it's not strictly speaking necessary. It does just naturally fall into a sort of curved shape once you've put it on something that's curved. So that's the end shape. What we're going to do now is place this in the oven as best I can so that it has a chance to bake and cure, and when it comes out it'll be stiff as a board apparently. I've not actually done this before, this is the first time trying it. So I'm going to put these in the oven for about 20 minutes in order to let them cure, and I'm just going to leave them on this tin foil just to maintain that shape, and we'll see how they turn out in 20 minutes time. So it's 24 hours later and they've had overnight to dry, and this was what the level was like originally, soft and fairly floppy, and this is them now. See, they've hardened up quite a lot. So me and Grogu here, we're going to now dye these in a chocolate brown colour, and then we'll start thinking about painting and layering on the cushioning on the underside. So not only is it the most awkward lighting possible, but I have changed my hair halfway through filming this video, and I'm filming two videos at the same time, so it's going to change twice. I'm the master of continuity. But anyway, the next step in creating these Vambraces is going to be creating something that's going to attach it to my arm and also make the inside softer, because these are quite stiff at the moment and it will rub against my skin and cause irritation if I don't have something softer under there. This strip of leather, you can get these really cheap. You can get them normally off Amazon or eBay or somewhere like that. They're just off-cuttings from the furniture industry. They're byproduct. They can't have any use for something this small. It's too small for a pillow or anything. So they just sell them off. And you can pick them up fairly cheap, but they are really soft because you're supposed to be able to sit on them. So what I'm going to do is create a section that's wide enough to go around the arm entirely, so that when I put a vambrace on, I know it's the wrong way around on my arm, but when I put a vambrace on, I can use that to attach at the bottom and have something soft between the vambrace and my arm. So that's how it's going to sit with that underneath. It will need to be trimmed down to sit more flush with the vambrace. But the way I'm going to attach this on the underside is, rather than doing it with eyelets, which is going to take a little while, what I'm going to do instead is just put a series of rivets along and then cut holes in it that I can thread through. The rivet should hold the sides together so that it makes a loop around like that, and then because it's got holes in the side, then I'll be able to just thread a leather cord through and use it like laces on a shoe. But that's the theory. Anyway, let's see how well I actually managed to accomplish that. Right, so we're almost done now. We've got the hard outer layers and the softer inner layer, and they've all been laced up. They're not going to be symmetrical because I messed up one of the soft parts, and so I had to use another piece of leather that wasn't quite large enough. So one of these is slightly smaller than the other. See, this one, it won't reach all the way over, so I'll have more of the lacing showing, which means that the angle that comes off the side is going to be different, so I'm going to have to try and work a way of evening those out. So what we're going to do in order to stick the inner layer to the outer layer isn't what they did in the movie. For the movie, what they did was they stitched it, but stitching takes a lot of time, and I'm doing this whilst also doing another project, so I'm trying to do this one as quickly as I can in between the parts for the other one. So what I'm going to do is just contact cement. Contact cement, so apply it on this soft part on the inside of this, and then just stick them together once it's gone tacky, and Bob's your uncle, they should stay together. There we have it. Vambraces to either help carry my shopping or, you know, rescue the hobbits from Isengard. One way or the other, whichever's more likely. I'm hoping for the latter, but it's probably going to be the former. A couple of Vambraces, they fit quite well, although this one is actually a little bit loose. This one is the one that I didn't have enough material for what I originally wanted, and it fits a lot more snugly, so obviously I wanted the smaller size on the underside. These are a bit too long and they try and overlap when I pull them tight, but they both fit reasonably well, and if I were to put a shopping bag over there, the weight would be taken across the entirety of the Vambracer rather than just pressing down into my skin and cutting into me. So they're going to fill their purpose. And that was a very quick and very easy build. I say it all the time, but that really could have been a short. It was just something I was making because I've always wanted a pair. I had the problem of carrying the shopping, and I was in the middle of waiting for resin to dry. So I was like, what can I do while I'm waiting for resin to dry? So I just knocked these up quick as you like. So anyway, thank you for stopping by, and if you click this video over here, it has been selected by the algorithm just for you. And if you click this cartoon head at the side of me here, then you can subscribe to the channel for more builds like this. I do have another Lord of the Rings build coming up, so I want to stick around for that if you enjoy Lord of the Rings. I also have a cloak. Want to see the cloak? The cloak's up here.